guys, so today's video is going to be a little comparison between two concealers. This is the Tarte Shape Tape, and this is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Concealer. There is quite a price difference between these two. The Tarte Shape Tape is 27 bucks, I believe, and the Wet n Wild is maybe 4 bucks. I feel like I should fact check before I get on camera. So I applied one to one eye and one to the other eye, and I'm doing a little comparison for you. I'm doing it sort of like a wear test format where I show you guys the application process, and then I will check in with you guys at the very end of the night to show you which one held up better, which one was more crease resistant, things like that. A couple things I want to point out: these two shades are not similar in any way, shape, or form. I have the shade Fair Beige and the Tarte Shape Tape, which is a little bit more highlighting for my skin tone. And then I have the lightest shade in the Wet n Wild concealer, which is Light Ivory, which is a better match for my skin tone. It's not highlighting at all, but it does blend in with my natural skin tone pretty well. Another thing I'll mention just really quick, you'll see in the demo, but I had another peel yesterday. I'm going through treatment / medication for my acne, and my skin is absolutely freaking out. You'll see. Oh girl, you'll see. So if you want to go ahead and see the difference between these two concealers and which one I prefer, then let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so here we are all zoomed in nice and close, a little too close. It's okay to admit it, but I really want you guys to be able to see what the concealers look like on my skin. So I'm going to do my best to do the exact same thing to either eye with either concealer. I'm going to prime it with my Too Faced Hangover RX. I cut the top off of it because I couldn't get any more out of the pump, and there was like a lot left, and I was not about to throw it away, so... And then I'm going to set it using my RCMA No Color Powder, as I always stinking do. I need to cut more off the top of it though, because I can't get to the bottom. Just massacring this poor bottle. I have already washed and moisturized my face, if you were wondering. That little bit of dew that I had to my skin, that was my moisturizer. I pretty much have to moisturize no matter what nowadays. I just had a peel done yesterday, so my skin isn't in the best shape, but it's actually better than it has been in the past. Usually I wouldn't be able to film the day after I got a peel because my skin starts to flake and it's just a hot mess. But it wasn't too bad yesterday, so. I did take a little bit of that primer up onto my eyelids. I can't really use eyeshadow primer anymore because I get such dry patches on my eyelids. You can see sort of the redness right here on the inner part of my eyelids. That is all just dryness, and it is actually very sensitive. But when I put actual eyeshadow primer up there, it dries that area out even worse. But I do still get oily throughout the day, so it's like I have painful dry patches on my skin, but I'm still an oily, greasy mess by the end of the day. So I'm going to be bringing these concealers up onto my eyelids to prime for some eyeshadow. I'm struggling on what to do with like the whole amount that I use. Like, should I use the exact same amount? Should I just call it like one swipe each, even though this applicator is bigger? I'm just trying to make it even so that we can really see like the true test. But it's difficult because, you know, they have different sort of coverage levels, different consistencies, different sized applicators. There's a bunch of different factors that go into why they're so different. So with Tarte Shape Tape, you definitely don't need much at all. So I'm just gonna start with that one little swipe. I'm gonna grab up my Real Techniques. I believe it's called the Miracle Eraser or something like that. And I'll use the pointy side for this side. Just blend it out. Why is that happening? Is my sponge too wet? I think my sponge is too wet because that literally never happens. Okay, that's better. That's okay, that's okay, small mishap. So this side you can definitely still see the darkness underneath my eyes, but it did bring a much nice, fresher, sort of awake look to the skin, but I am gonna apply just a little bit more. I think I'm just gonna apply enough of each concealer so that it looks in the mirror like I have the same amount of coverage. That way you guys can see how much it took per concealer to get that sort of coverage. So I'm just gonna add just a little bit more. Alright, I'm just gonna add just like literally like this much more right in that little inner corner sort of area. Like I said, that's my little problem area on my eyelids. It is accentuating it a bit, how dry it is. Actually a lot. It's actually accentuating it a lot. And I haven't even powdered yet, so yikes, girlfriend, that was way too much. Way too much. I'm bringing out the big guns for this. I just messed everything up. Okay, now that I went in with this sponge, it took away some of the concealer on my under eye. Maybe this one's too wet too. I think I need to wring my sponges out a little bit better. I truly do love this concealer. I truly love both of these concealers, but this whole situation doesn't always happen, especially didn't happen when I had like straight up oily skin. But now that I'm on medication, like I've mentioned 100 times, my skin is freaking out. I had a peel yesterday, my skin is freaking out, and that's where things like this come from. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and powder. I'm gonna powder with my damp sponge. It's my favorite way to powder even when I had oilier skin. I prefer that method. It just looks a lot more natural and more airbrushed. Ow, I got a lot of powder in my eye. All right, so that is one eye, the Tarte eye, all done, concealed, powdered, all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and move on to the Wet n Wild side. I'm using the part of the sponge that I haven't used. No cross-contamination. That looks so beautifully flawless right now. Oh, I love it, but I'm terrified to bring it up onto my eyelids. I don't think I've tried this with this concealer yet. Doing a similar thing, sort of lifting off that little dry area. I'm gonna add a little bit more for a little bit more coverage, just so I can match the other eye. How have I been applying concealer for 13 minutes? Hannah, you need to speed this up. Speed it up, girlfriend. Again, setting this side with my RCMA No Color Powder and a damp Real Techniques sponge. So for right now, I think the Wet n Wild side looks better. In the Shape Tape's defense though, this dry patch area on my left eye is worse than the one on my right eye, so just keep that in mind. They both look pretty gnarly, I'm not gonna lie, right on these little dry areas. Should we spot conceal with them also? We already powdered, man, that was dumb. As you can see, the Tarte Shape Tape has ridiculous freaking coverage. I don't wanna bring it up any higher because I already powdered. So here's the Tarte side and the Wet n Wild side. Obviously the side's not concealed yet. Doesn't look that bad for having such texture issues right now. So as you can see on one layer each, I think the Shape Tape side covered much better than the Wet n Wild side. So I am gonna build up the coverage. Just so you can see, it takes a little bit more of the Wet n Wild concealer to get the kind of coverage that the Shape Tape gives you on one layer. Actually, I think I might need to build up the Shape Tape side just a little bit. I almost feel like, as far as Shape Tape goes, I feel like the coverage kind of fades the more that it's sitting there on your skin. Or maybe it's just the more that I blend it out, that would make more sense. All right, I'm just gonna zoom you in really quickly before I powder because I want you to see this. As you can see right here, I have a major dry patch. This is the Wet n Wild side. This, I'm telling you, would have happened even if I was using the Tarte on this side. That's just how dry my skin is right now, that it will peel, and probably by the time I take this off tonight, that will have come off and completely flaked off my face, which is disgusting. Keep in mind, I also moisturized the crap out of my face before I started this video, so I'm gonna go ahead and powder my whole face with my RCMA No Color as per usual. And then just to see if I can add a bit more coverage, once again, I'm going into my Cosmetic Celebration foundation. It's in the shade Fair. I'm gonna use a brush to apply this. All right, so far as coverage goes, I think the Shape Tape side looks better, even though I try to make them even. I think the Shape Tape looks better. As far as dryness goes, I think the Wet n Wild side looks better. But I do have this major situation happening on the Wet n Wild side, and I have this major situation happening on the Shape Tape side. So it's kind of hard for me to see whether or not the Wet n Wild does well with dry skin. Maybe I should have done half and half this way. That would have been funny. But that's all for right now. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my makeup and I will be right back. All right, you guys, so I'm basically done with my makeup, but I have to show you guys this just because I am going to fix it because I'm not going out of the house like this. This is the side with the Wet n Wild concealer, and as you can see, that right there is how freaking dry my skin is at the moment. So I just wanted to show you guys, this is not the fault of the concealer. This has happened to me with the Tarte Shape Tape before. This is just what those stinking peels do to my face, no matter what product, no matter what primer I am using. But I am going to try and fix this. I'm not gonna show you me fixing it because it's gonna be stinking disgusting, but I just wanted to let you guys know that this did happen, and it happens with all products. Alright, so now I have completely finished up my makeup. There's sort of like a weird little hole in my concealer right here because I had to fix that situation. But now that both sides are done, I have to say that both sides of my face, the texture, the finish of the concealers are stunning on both sides, especially in my under eye. And if either side is creasing more than the other one, it's the Tarte side that's creasing a little bit more. Just like this much more. I did set my makeup using the NYX Dewy Finish Long Lasting Setting Spray. So yeah, for right now, I'm saying both sides are equal, and I will check back in with you guys at the end of the night. Hey you guys, so it is now 10:30 p.m. and I forgot to do a sort of timestamp earlier, but I know that I got done filming around 4 p.m. So it's now been about 6.5 hours, which I think is like a good amount of time to test out a concealer. So let's go ahead and look at how it's doing. Okay, so obviously we have some more peely skin happening down here, which is to be expected. This is the Wet n Wild side. Let's ignore that for a second and let's look at my under eye. They literally both look amazing. If anything, again, I think the Wet n Wild side looks even better than the Tarte side. This side could be drier than this side. Everything's completely rubbed off on my nose. I feel like my eyeshadow still looks really good on both sides. Like these weird dry patches didn't really affect my eyeshadow much, which is good. This part of my face is really just like a hot stinking mess because of the peels. So yeah, I actually would go ahead and say that these are dupes, especially for the price difference. This is $27, this one's like $4. So if you're on an extreme budget, pick up the Wet n Wild concealer and know that you're not missing much. And the major downside, in my opinion, to the Wet n Wild versus the Tarte is shade selection. Wet n Wild doesn't have nearly as many shade options to choose from as the Tarte, but again, the Tarte is much more expensive. And I heard great things about this Wet n Wild concealer, so maybe Wet n Wild will expand their shade range. That would be awesome, because if they made a light enough shade, I might not buy Shape Tape anymore. One of my favorite ways to use Shape Tape is just all over my face or like a foundation, and I have to say I do prefer the Wet n Wild under my eyes as opposed to the Wet n Wild all over my face as a foundation, which is sort of inconvenient considering the shades. So yes, both concealers had very minimal creasing underneath the eyes and performed insanely similarly on the face. So if you're asking me, I say they're dupes. So that's everything for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any future videos of mine, and I will see you guys next time. Mwah! So as you can see, right, ew, my disgusting nail. And this is the shade Wet n Wild.